Deadly Demon writes in and says, if you could change one thing about the club, what would it be and why? Did you have anything to speak on that last topic, by the way, before? No, I didn't. You were giving me that look. That's why I moved on.
That's just my face.
The stadium.
The stadium.
I could speak for so long on how important I think it is that we need to renovate the stadium, like wholesale. Leave the south stand as it is right now, because I think there's nothing wrong with that stand, but the other three just look so dated, and I'm speaking very bluntly on this. They just look so dated. The club shop looks really, really dated, and it just doesn't. I understand this might be a controversial topic because, you know, it's Hillsborough, it's iconic, it's one of the old football stadiums, whatever. And I'm not saying turn it into a bowl. Please don't do that because it loses all of its character. But use those World Cup plans that are sat in an archive somewhere. I know it's not practical while we're in League One or whatever, but at the nearest possible convenient time, we need to use those or use some plan based on those, because we get it from so many away fan bases now that say, doesn't Hillsborough look tired? Doesn't it look rusty? Doesn't it look this, that, and the other? And
can I possibly counter that? Just joining in before, like, just rather than, if we don't do the World Cup plans, which I agree is the best way forward, why not just renovation? Why not? We've got a 37,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
We'll fill that if we get back to the Premier League, but why not just renovate what we've got?
Just needs a facelift.
Yeah. Just renovate
more sturdy looking.
Let's get that to a point where we can get that back, where we can fill it.
Yes.
And do the work that needs doing on that. Unless the plan is genuinely put a pin in it until you can expand it. But how long is that going to be before it just it crumbles? Yeah. Exactly.
And like you say as well, it's just, I also feel that if fans knew they had a really nice looking renovated stadium to go to, more might be inclined to go.
Does anybody actually go and get food at half time?
When I used to, and it's shocking. It was shocking then, but it's like cardboard now. But
I was just gonna, like, adding on to what Jack said. I'll throw my quirk into the ring. I'm an artist.
You'll look a musician and artist. How cliche.
You're a musician.
Oh yeah, I mentioned it.
Yeah. I think people forget how much appearance actually affects your overall mood.
Yes.
And going somewhere that's a bit tired, a bit run down, it's in the back of your brain, like, oh God, are we a bit tired? Are we a bit run down? You know, you don't want that feeling going into somewhere like Hillsborough.
I don't see it.
Yeah, but
I know it's probably because I'm locked in nostalgia, but I'm like, it's always been like this.
Yeah.
Is
but
that
just because something's always been like
doesn't
that
mean it's the best thing.
Yeah.
You
know, just a little tidy up. Maybe we start by painting the railings.
Well, the seats need sorting. The
Yes.
seats need sorting. But like, that's what I'm talking about. Renovate it and maybe just the wedges and stuff like.
Sodding presto stand room.
Yeah,
that's easy.
But
I don't know if it is, because why has it not been done? If it is there something like? Is it low? Is it like if we start messing, it might just all come down? Is the
who was it that said, when we knock that stand down, there'll just be still the press hovering in the air.
Yeah, there'll just be Presto
Yeah.
stand just in the air constantly. I genuinely think if we get a modern stadium, you need a hologram of Presto stand on the top of it. It's never.
Just have visions of it. Is it like The Simpsons or something where they walk into a building and then all the sides just fall down?
I can't
like
stress this enough, guys. That Presto stand has been there my entire life.
Yeah.
It said Presto on the top of there. As far as I can remember, I've never not looked up there and it said Presto.
I think it would be.
Where were you going with that, James?
Wouldn't it be? I think it would be interesting to maybe, if you did something with Hillsborough, maybe you could have like a mini museum where stuff like that could go. So it's not gone away. It's not, people can go and look at it and be like, look at the history of our club. Because you've got a lot of it. And what are you doing with it? Going, back in my day. Like,
have it on show.
Have your history on show and have.
That is actually
As-
part of the World Cup plans, There is actually a thing above.
It
It's
would
like
also
an
be
added
another
bit where
revenue
the
stream.
mega store is, but like go upstairs, and that's where it is.
Yeah, like have the store or like have the museum, have a store. That's another revenue stream that you can put back into the stadium. Also give other fans other jobs.
Yeah.
It's a really good point. I don't understand why like we have to keep things so separate and things like that. It's like the bringing the store in with the museum idea and stuff like that. You can actually build the culture around it and do
because
all
you
of
have
that.
got a culture.
Yeah, we have. There's not a lot. There's some football clubs that don't have that. So there is that there, and I think. Yeah, the stadium is definitely one.
It is very easy to keep saying we need to have a new renovated stadium, whatever, and practically it's a lot of money, and feasibly we
you
can't
also
do that
got to
right
realize that it's going to reduce the revenue streams.
Yes.
So that's where the money comes in.
However, there is a counterpoint of because Chancery. I'm honestly overthinking that so much because. Because Chancery privately owns the stadium, he can do with that whatever he wishes, and it will not reflect any of that on the club's books. So he could spend whatever he wants on renovating it.
He could,
and
but
it
also
wouldn't
it's a
reflect
case
on the
of
club's finances.
He'd then have to
but
sell it back to the club
would
if he ever
then-
sold it.
Yes, and that would be a stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there is that.
Because look at the mess that Derby had with when they got taken over.
I don't think it's going to get
It's-
touched
oof.
until we can bring the
You
stadium.
can't touch it anyway. It's got the protection order.
I think what is a thing as well, like when you're on a shoestring, in terms of you need your revenue sources coming. If you start renovating stands, you're going to have a lot of fans you can't put in them. And if you start renovating the good parts of the stands, then you've only got the bad part. You start with the bad parts, and you've got to disperse fans about it. And also,
example is Oxford. They don't have a stand.
you probably have to do it for an entire season as well,
Yeah.
because if you like doing it for an entire season, you're not going to be able to sell season tickets in that area. You're not going to be able to. You're going to have to do it one bit at a time, and it's going to be few years of disruption. And I get why it's not being done, but it does need doing. But one thing I will never agree with: the stadium does not need to come down. You do not need to move it. You do not need to bring it down. I would actually possibly lose my heart of that club if it did, just because of where I've told you my family grew up in Hillsborough.
Yeah.
If that is not down that street, it's going to be different.
If anything, it needs raising up high from the Don.
Yes.
It needs to go higher up structurally.
Yeah,
Because
That would cost an absolute
That would be knocking it all down and rebuilding it.
Yeah,
again.
I don't really necessarily mind if we had unlimited money, doing that in the exact same place, piece for piece, modern. Do you know what I mean? I don't actually mind that so much.
If we just got all the stands to look like the South Stand, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Like that's what Bramall Lane did pretty much when
Yeah.
they renovated that place. I mean, that looks tired now, but yeah, that's pretty much all they did when they renovated it in the mid 2000s, whenever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
I remember
you
they had automatic ticket things,
Did they?
because I went to a Milan game there. Inter Milan, was it? Sheffield FC, Inter Milan, they hosted it at Bramall Lane.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had my Wednesday top on under a jumper or something, and just walked in and just like...
You were like, this is a bit.
Yeah, I was like, what's this? We hand it to person.
and they go beep. and give it back to you.
What would you change about the club?
Mine's similar, but it's training ground.
Yeah,
Training
you
ground
bang on
branding.
about this training ground.
Training
So I
ground
get
and-
it though.
Training ground and branding.
Yeah.
Because our training ground is not ours.
You
We
can,
do
you can
not
sort
own
of
it.
tell that, I think, when you look at how
Yeah.
it's branded. It's all very temporary fixtures rather than.
You look at some of the old pictures where they've been inside the training ground. It's that old hired council kind of put together fencing, and then
prefab looking stuff.
And then you've got like the Wednesday branding, and it's just bits that are falling off, and you can see it in videos. It's like it looks bad. The thing is, getting the training ground right is again another what it is. It's expensive because we have to buy land. Where in Sheffield is the land you can buy?
Look at Leicester when they did theirs up.
Exactly. That's why they haven't been able to do a transfer window.
Yeah.
Remember a couple of seasons ago, Chancery had a company do a survey that said, do you want me to spend money on players or do you want me to improve infrastructure? Everyone said players. So we knew, right, players then. If everyone said
Oh God, think
infrastructure-
about where we'd be.
Yeah. If he said infrastructure, it would be so much better because a training ground can then level up your youth academy.
How much of a training ground would Jordan Rhodes have bought you?
Yeah, exactly.
I've been saying that.
They
for
wouldn't
so
have bought
long.
you a low because obviously 10 million.
Yeah.
You probably need to spend more than that, but it'd have been a hefty chunk of it.
You
It bought
get
that,
a decent
you know,
land.
like the land that's behind the training ground where there's like
South Yorkshire Police land,
and there's like a event hall
yeah,
thing on it with like a rugby pitch
it's also
outside
got
it.
a
And
cricket pitch,
yeah.
I think.
Could we not like
That land. Oh,
There's bits of parts of, I don't know if it's specifically the factories district, but there's a load of like
brownfield sites.
pretty much like
I know about that. 'Cause I'm a
glassed out.
geography graduate.
Do you know, but like glassed out?
Yeah.
You know, like the glassed out buildings,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. You could just flatten them. I've always thought if you bought
There's a
them
lot
and
of
just
land.
flatten them.
There's a lot of farmland for sale in High Bradfield.
I don't necessarily want to touch farmland.
Ironically,
I think farm.
the Sheffield United training ground is up for sale because they've just bought the RAF field. And
Are you sure about that? Because they just done a massive modernisation of their ground, which I think may have nuked that.
oh, well, never
Well,
mind then.
well, why don't we just buy the RAF
Yeah,
ground?
that's
then?
what I'm saying. Why don't we buy the RAF field instead?
I mean, it'd be the most banter move on chance here.
You're just buying United's academy. But to be
Buying the
honest,
RAF
it
field.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Could you
I don't. To be honest, I don't care because they could have it forever. They could put it on the honours board. Oh, you've got our old academy. Fine.
Whatever. It's,
Yeah.
Have you seen where it is?
Yeah, Jack, we can do what Mike Ashley's done to what he was trying to do to Coventry. By the way, we own your training ground. Now go look for somewhere else to train. I'm your landlord and I want this much money.
I think if I was to change something about the club, it would be community outreach, and not in terms of just doing the hospitals, doing things like that, but making every fan like feel like there's more, giving more incentives to for fans to be engaged. I know we're trying things, we're doing the esports teams and things like that, but there's stuff that like there isn't a lot of inclusion to the general fan base, you know, and you notice it more when you are in this sphere and you're sort of like you're interacting with different members of the community and stuff like that. There's so many people who just go to the matches but don't have any other sort of connection to the club, and it's also a case of if there was more outreach and more engagement with certain fans, I think you'd have more ideas on how to montage. You'd have more ideas on how to do a media presence. You'd have more ideas on how to get voices in and really make things. It's just there is other clubs just leaving us in the dirt with that, and I think we are trying, but we need to move quicker and move smarter.
It was really good in 2010. I mean, my primary school, there used to be someone from the Sheffield Wednesday community program.
Why is it just Sheffield?
I don't know.
I know that's weird because we're Sheffield Wednesday, but like there's so many outer areas of Sheffield that you don't have to be right directly there. You think, oh, there's Wednesday. What about different start going out there for a start. Do you know what I mean? And grow the fan base. Get them in when they're young. And yeah, they might not be supporters now, but there might be kids that come in and they're like, oh, we have the Wednesday. But then there might be more of a.
I wonder if that community bit we just built recently might help. Because we spoke about, I think it's up near Axel, where we just like done all the pictures. The thing is, on the community, I still think Chansiri is scared about.
Because of all of that crap that he was getting a few years ago.
You know
so he's scared of if he does this, he might get this, or if he does this, so he might do this. So
he got a lot of backlash for no reason.
Yeah.
And I think when you initially get that back, it's like, what am I doing? It's why seeing Chansiri actually be behind the scenes is actually quite nice to see because he's probably enjoying it a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. What would you change about Sheffield Wednesday?
I think, like Jack, I think the stadium. I think, like
I guess that's the one thing that you always see as well. It's that
yeah,
side of
as
it.
a
So
visual person, like I would look at the visuals, and like I said, going into somewhere that is a bit, outdated. There must be some part of yourself that's like, oh.
Not me.
No.
Not me. I'm always like,
I always feel like there should be some.
I'm the child on the steps.
It should be something.
It's like if you buy a house and you've got to redo it from like ground up.
Yeah.
You want it to look nice at the end of it.
Yeah.
The problem is we have one bit that's nice, and that's the bit where you walk over the bridge. That is it.
Yeah.
You walk around the rest of it,
And it is
doesn't
such-
break.
And I believe that was
staple.
renovated because of all the insurance money that we got for when the club flooded.
Oh yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was why all that got done up, all the South Stand, because of insurance money from the flooding.
Yeah, and if you are going to have a staple like
Mm.
Hillsborough,
Yep.
it should be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
It should be, because at the end of the day, as much as I don't like saying this, it's a historic landmark.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Why don't you like saying that?
It just feels dirty.
Can you please elaborate?
Oh, yes, a historic landmark. Oh.
I don't think she meant like that.
She didn't. I know she didn't. I just thought it would be funny because we've been very serious, and I just thought let's have a laugh again.
Oh, Jack.
A historic landmark deserves to be treated with respect.
Yeah.
It is something that needs to be maintained for generations, and I just don't feel like it is at the minute.
I think the problem with it is as well because of the name and the ties to the name. It's like when you talk about historic landmark, when you think about history, people overlook that. They'll look at that one point in history and they won't look at everything else historical about it. There's been so many historical things, but because there was something tragic that happened that was historically tied to it, people immediately go from that, and that is always going to be a shadow. But wherever we go, it should always be Hillsborough, and it should always be, so it's like there's always going to be that anyway. And it's always going to be on the Google search anyway. So it's a case of...
Use your community outreach bit to get the community to help put back into their stadium.
Well, I know for a fact that
Does that
fans
make
would go and
sense?
sort the seats out and
Local
stuff like that.
tradesmen, local
Yeah.
builder,
Yeah.
anything, all that sort of stuff.
Just be like, could you pin the seats? And we'll obviously put
I
like...
think we did. Did we do that a few seasons ago? We had some people
I think
coming into...
it was like when Mandarich first owned the club. It was around that time. Like first came in to own the club. But yeah.
I think, we just definitely just the visuals. Yeah, they could do with lifting, and also some of the visuals that we then decide to go for. I'm like, it was stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing that for?
Like,
Do you know
I
what I
see
mean?
some of your marketing stuff, and I'm like, that's gone through people.
Yeah.
And we've gone, yeah, that's fine.
Mm.
You just think,
I'll be it's like there's there needs to be more of I think there needs to be more of a standard there across everything. You standardize things, and this is the standard. If we're not hitting that standard, we're not putting it out.
Yeah,
it does feel like the media side of the marketing is living very much in the 2010s. Not
the catching up. I've got to give credit where I can see it.
It would have been great, but we're 10 years on from that now. We need to be like.
That was a good.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. They're doing that sort of thing, and again, but yeah, I know what you're saying there. People were doing that a long time ago, and they were catching up to that sort of stuff now. But we need to keep going down that route.